For centuries, whispers of a curse have surrounded Dudley Town, tales of tragedy, madness, and unexplained occurrences. But is there any truth to the legends? From the arrival of the unfortunate Dudley family in the 18th century to the unexplained deaths, and that's not all. The haunting experiences of Dr. William Clark and his wife paint a picture of a realm where reality and the ethereal intertwine, leaving us questioning the very nature of Dudley Town's existence. Hidden within the depths of history far away in northwestern Connecticut lies Dudley Town. Once a vibrant community, its remnants lay scattered amidst the wilderness, entangled in a web of tales and enigmas. It is a land that evokes stories of spirits, enigmatic beings, and unexplained events hidden in the mystique of America's early days. Today, all that remains of Dudley Town are the faint outlines of cellar holes and weathered stone foundations. The paths that once connected this village have faded into narrow trails known only to the adventurous few who dare to explore its mysteries. Even though it is forbidden, there are still those who possess an insatiable curiosity, venturing into the dark recesses of Dudley Town, even under cover of night. But what is the origin of this mysterious place? According to both recent and imaginative accounts, the origins of this so-called curse date back to 1510 in England. Edmund Dudley was said to be executed for his alleged involvement in a plot to overthrow King Henry VIII. Legend has it that a curse was cast upon the Dudley family, decreeing that all their descendants would be haunted by horrors and plagued by death. Supporters of this curse argue that the Dudleys subsequently faced an unnerving streak of misfortune. The Dudley family's controversial history continued as Edmund's son, John Dudley, sought to manipulate the British throne by arranging a marriage between his son, Guilford, and Lady Jane Grey, the next in line for the crown. Lady Jane briefly became queen after the death of Edward VI, but the plan ultimately failed, leading to the execution of Lady Jane and the two Dudleys. Adding to their misfortune, Guilford's brother returned from France, unknowingly carrying a plague that spread among his fellow officers and troops. This epidemic ravaged the British military and eventually spread throughout the country, claiming the lives of thousands. John Dudley's third son, Robert, the Earl of Leicester, a favored courtier of Queen Elizabeth I, made a wise decision to leave England and journey to the New World. His fortunate descendant, William, settled in Guilford, Connecticut. Later on, three of William's descendants, Abiel, Barzillai, and Gideon, purchased a piece of land in Cornwall Township. But here's where things get really confusing. While there were sad events surrounding the Dudley family in England and France, doubts have been raised regarding the alleged curse following them to America. This skepticism arises because for the curse to have affected Dudley Town, William Dudley would have had to be the son of Robert, Earl of Leicester, which he was not. Robert Dudley only had two sons, one of whom died as a child, and the other remained in Italy with his children. Therefore, no familial connection existed between William, his sons who established Dudley Town, and any supposed curse. Throughout the country, there are places where strange occurrences unfold, and the land feels unsettled. Historical records indicate that the Mohawk Indian tribe once occupied the land around Dudley Town, but little else was known before the arrival of the first settlers. Over time, this region has gained a chilling reputation. Could the unsettling stories and mysterious disappearances somehow be connected to the past, or are they merely coincidences fueled by imagination? 3 Dudley family members moved away from the region and lived long lives, passing away from natural causes, greatly diminishing any notion of a curse. Only Abiel Dudley remained in town and faced a series of misfortunes, resulting in losing his entire fortune and sanity. Abiel died in 1799 at the age of 90, and as he could not pay his debts, the town confiscated his property, sold it, and assumed responsibility for his care as a ward. Towards the end of his life, Abiel suffered from senility and insanity, but he would not be the last to endure such afflictions. Horace Greeley did too. Another person linked to Dudley Town in the tales of the curse is Horace Greeley, the editor and founder of the New York Tribune. However, this story merits debunking. According to the legends, Greeley allegedly married Mary Young Cheney, who was said to have been born in Dudley Town. Mary was born and raised in nearby Litchfield and never resided in Dudley Town. She left the area as early as 1833 and lived in a vegetarian boarding house owned by Dr. Graham, known for his association with graham crackers, and became involved in the popular wellness movement of the time. Well, that's not all. As we approach the 1900s, nothing changed, but rather there's a story of one Dr. Williams Clark and his experiences in this deserted city. Following the Civil War, Dudley Town began to decline, leading many villagers to relocate. The town's demise is unsurprising, regardless of whether one believes in the so-called curse. Its geographical location could have been more favorable. Situated amidst hills at elevations exceeding 1,500 feet, offering little chance for successful crop growth and sustainable living. The harsh winters and rocky soil made agriculture challenging, and the area was plagued by excessive water, resulting in swamps and damp conditions. By the early 1900s, Dudley Town had become completely deserted. The remaining homes fell into disrepair, and nature began reclaiming the village that once stood there. However, proponents of the curse have connected one more death to Dudley Town, adding to the unsettling mental conditions in the isolated region. Around 1900, Dr. William Clark arrived in Cornwall and fell in love with the forest and the quiet country life. Born in 1877, Clark grew up on a farm in Tenafly, New Jersey, and became a professor of surgery, renowned as a leading cancer specialist in New York. He purchased 1,000 acres of land in the Connecticut wilderness, including Dudley Town, and began building a summer and vacation home there. Over the following years, he and his wife, Harriet Bank Clark, visited the house on weekends and during the summer, eventually using it primarily for short trips in the summer and Thanksgiving holidays. They enjoyed an idyllic second life near Dudley Town until 1918. Dr. Clark was urgently called to New York one summer weekend, leaving his wife behind. According to the story, he returned 36 hours later to find her in a state of insanity, echoing the experiences of previous residents in the village. The tale also claims that she spoke of strange creatures emerging from the forest and attacking her. Subsequently, she took her own life. While the truth behind this story remains uncertain, it has been documented that Mrs. Clark suffered from a chronic illness in the years leading up to her suicide. The nature of her ailment, whether physical or mental, is unknown. However, it is generally understood that mentally stable individuals do not typically resort to suicide. Even if we discount the claim of seeing strange creatures in the woods, we are left with another suicide within the nearly non-existent village of Dudley Town. The history of Dudley Town is marked by a series of tragic and mysterious events, leaving a haunting legacy that continues to captivate and intrigue those who encounter its story. So what became of Dr. Clark after his wife's death? After the tragic events that unfolded in Dudley Town, Dr. Clark continued to maintain his house and frequently visited the area despite the devastating loss of his wife. Years later, he remarried and stayed at his summer house until a larger home was built nearby in 1930. In 1924, Dr. Clark and other doctors, friends, and landowners formed the Dark Entry Forest Association to preserve the surrounding land and keep it in its natural state. The association held its first meeting in 1926 with 41 members. Dr. Clark died in Cornwall Bridge in February 1943, and his wife Carita died 5 years later. Some of their children and family members still reside in the area. Today, Dudley Town remains mostly deserted, except for curious tourists and thrill seekers who visit for excitement. The Dark Entry Forest Association continues to own most of the land where the village once stood. The few homes on Bald Mountain Road, belonging to the closest residents, are secluded and separate from the main roads. These locals maintain that nothing supernatural occurs in the region. Perhaps they are correct, or maybe they're not. Who knows? While the existence of a curse on Dudley Town seems unlikely, it is peculiar to have such a small area marked by numerous disappearances, unusual deaths, suicides, and cases of insanity. The stories of a curse must have originated from some cause, which could be a possible explanation. Reports of ghostly encounters and paranormal phenomena in the woods surrounding the village began to surface in the 1940s. Visitors to the ruins of Dudley Town spoke of strange incidents, wispy apparitions, and unexplained phenomena. Even today, those who have visited the area claim to have captured paranormal photographs, experienced overwhelming terror, witnessed mysterious lights, sounds, and sights, and even reported being touched, pushed, or scratched by unseen hands. But what if there's a little explanation for the happenings in Dudley Town? Some researchers call the area a negative power spot, where entities may enter this world from the other side. This perspective may explain the strange events in Dudley Town's history, such as the eerie reports, mentions of strange creatures, and the outbreaks of insanity and madness. The place is often seen as tainted in some way, as if the ground itself has been spoiled or sour from the beginning. While some historians and debunkers dismiss the reports and theories surrounding Dudley Town, maintaining that the absence of the curse of Dudley Town suggests nothing unusual ever occurred there, a more open-minded perspective acknowledges the enigmatic nature of the place and the strange events that have taken place throughout its history. However, it is important to note that attempting to visit Dudley Town today can be hazardous and not for the ghosts. The Dark Entry Forest Association, which owns most of the land, has prohibited trespassing. In 1999, they announced that hikers would no longer be allowed on their property. Despite this, many still venture into the area, defying the spirits and the authorities. Would you dare to pay a visit here? Let us know in the comments, and I'll see you at our next mystery on Oak Islands.